So we went alone. Our group was 25 planes. Flak was heavy that day. I don't know whether you know what flak is, but they shoot this 88 projectile up and it explodes. And that stuff, some of them guys get enough shooting on the ground. I mean, if you're flying 16,000 feet, that stuff is right around you, and if you're flying 20,000 feet, I guess some of those shooters on the ground would get pretty good after a while. And that killed a lot of airmen. If it didn't knock the plane down, that shrapnel in pieces would go through this plane. There was nothing to the plane. Well, they knocked down 12 of the 25 before we even hit the target. Maybe 10, 12 minutes after we dropped our 2.5 tons, it was a clear day, you could see exactly where the bombs were in. Hit the factory real good. And about 10, 12 minutes after that, these FW-109 fighter planes, that was their version of our fighter plane, and it was a wicked son of a gun. Frontal attack on us and hit our oxygen tank in the bottom bay. Well, it caught the plane on fire, and the plane went down. 13 out of 25 planes died. Ours was the last one to get knocked down. No fighter protection. We knocked one of their Messerschmitts 210. It was a twin-engine German fighter. We knocked one of them down. And see that window in the back there? I jumped out of that plane. That window is way below that back horizontal stabilizer. You see the horizontal one? There's two vertical ones. It was mushing down sideways. I said, man, if I jump out of there, that's going to hit me in the belly and kill me. I don't know about cutting me. Anyway, I jumped as high as I could. Well, it tore off my flying boot. It hit my foot, tore my boot off, and tore my shoe off under the boot. And I had some coveralls over my flying suit that day. And man, it shredded the pants all up. But, and broke my foot and all that good stuff. Made it out all right, and lived in a farmer's front yard. Oddities. There's a fence right there, man, a picket fence, and boy, you know how you cross your legs here for picket fence. I missed that and lit about 25 feet. And my buddy, the radio man, jumped from the front now. A couple of guys lit a mile and a half or 2 miles away. Anyway, he jumped from the back end. You know, you didn't have any controls on those chutes or anything. But he hit that fence 25 feet away from where I come, darn it. But it's just an oddity that one guy jumped from the front of the plane and the back, and you couldn't land anywhere, and he lit 25 feet away from me. And that evening here, they had the bodies lined up, and they dug one out of the burnt refrigerator. You know, you're talking to them in the morning and all that stuff here. And then they make you carry them around at night, you know, no head, no legs, no arms, just the torso. You know, it burnt flesh smells like and all that stuff. But that's how it started. We went over with 10 and came back with 6.
Got it.
And I'm the only guy left for 7 or 8 years. You know, you're talking to a guy in the morning and all that buddies, and then that's the way the war started. And it wasn't much better after that. 4 of us, they put us in a boxcar with a 5-gallon can in there, crowded, and moved us up to East Prussia, Russia. It was a German prison camp in East Prussia, right next to Lithuania. This is the end of February '44. So we were sitting over there at D-Day. You know, same old stuff. They count us a couple times a day, and plenty of machine gun towers and all that stuff. In July, we could hear the Russian guns coming.
Uh-oh.
Well, they evacuated the camp, put us on a rail car up to the Baltic, put us on a ship, coal ship down in the Baltic. There were 4 of us, buddies, and on the whole of the coal ship, blacker than the Aces Bay's dark, and well, we were handcuffed while we were down there. Why that preventive, I don't know. They get us off up in Poland. They called it Pomerania. And took us by rail to this Stalag Luft 4. The Luft is airmen. But we each got a Red Cross parcel. I'm going into too much detail. And that's what our dreams were made of. A little parcel, I think it like maybe 12 inches square and about 8 inches high. There's a can of Spam in there and a Hershey bar and some Lucky Strikes cigarettes and a bar of soap and dried fruit and a big can of powdered milk.
Huh.
And some other stuff but that's what we dreamt about, and we each got a whole one. Well, they took us off the handcuffs and handcuffed to another guy, 2 guys. And they had these young German Navy guys fix bayonets, and they had police dogs there. Well, they ran us 3 kilometers up that hill, and they used them bayonets and police dogs. And what we do, we had our handcuffs together with all our belongings in each of our hands, plus that Red Cross bar. So, well, if you were smart, you knew what they wanted. They wanted to throw away. They wanted them cigarettes, and that stuff were, I guess, delicacies to some of that other stuff. 15. .44. And the pathetic guy, you see guys busting up, they'd lose it, sitting in a corner in a deal crying and all that stuff. And come on, you know, come on, we're all in this together. The war's going to end pretty soon. But really no quick fix. And they had a one of our prisoners was a doctor, and they had doctor visits and everything else in February 45. This was 44. January, that stuff in there. The old routine, you know, get us out a couple times a day and count us. Once we were in a barracks here close to one of the fences there, and see him drag in a horse, dead horse, and we knew we were going to get some meat that day. February, we could hear the Russian guns again. They were getting closer. So they evacuated 2,500 of us Americans, airmen, and moved us. We slept out on an open field. It had to be 15 or 20 degrees in the wintertime, cold, right on the open ground.
And
then they'd move us every day that we moved, bayonet wounds and police bites, dog bites from months ago. They were 4 abreast. Sometimes it snowed. You far as you can see in front of you where the guys walking. Every day. But I had a buddy. I got together with a buddy on that march. We got the so we divided our things and everything. His name was John Bulla from Texas. every day we were lucky we got in a barn. There we got the lice and fleas, and if we didn't, we might have drank water that the same place where the guys before us drank, diarrhea and dysentery. And like I said, walking in snow with wet feet and your shoes, frostbite. You know, it was rough. And the food, I can remember the bread and the potatoes. That was our staples. I guess once in a while we might have got some soup. But they called it the 78-day hunger march. The longest march of anybody over there. And I think I went from about 135 pounds to about 90 pounds. This was February 8th, 9th, or 10th that we left there. Russia.
Right.
Poland. We marched all the way across northern Poland in the wintertime, crossed the Elbe River in Germany. It went down a little diagonal, north and south, and we got into a 11B prison camp. It wasn't an airman's deal, airlift. It was 11B. It was crowded before what was left of our 2,500 men hit there, and most of the guys slept in tents out there. My buddy and I got into a barracks and slept on the floor. It was crowded, but we got inside and we were in there no more than 5 days. And of course, the grapevine, the British were coming from the west. Well, the Germans evacuated the whole camp. So we were east again. We got close to the Elbe River, maybe a mile, and then I and my buddy got to sleep in his barn, and the other guys, I guess there are hundreds of guys, were sleeping outside. They knew they weren't going anywhere. Where could you go? And of course there were guards around too. And that morning, next morning we got out, and we're near there, and you know they counted us all every time you turned around. They were head counting. Anyway, we got the head count right near the barn, and there was some disruption, I guess, down in that group down below, and our guard got sidetracked, and I guess he went down there to help. Well, my buddy got back in his barn. In an hour or so, they got everybody and all these people down the road again, and here my buddy and I were in his barn. They come in and check us or anything because they'd counted us already. And they took off, and the next day, they were back across the Elbe River, and I think every German that had a uniform on, I guess he was back across the river with them. The British came through the next day.
Oh, next day.
And they went as far as the river, and they stopped. Well, we got up in their camp. We went through their chow line, John and I. Then we went back and raided their garbage cans, and they came back. The officer came back and said, "You don't have to do that anymore." The British there for a couple of days, and one of our C-47s must have dropped off some food to the Brits or did something. Anyway, they got us into this empty plane, and back into this empty plane, John and I, completely empty, and flew us to Brussels, Belgium, and put us back in American hands there, 421 days. They sent us back on an empty plane, an American plane, to Brussels, Belgium, back into American hands. This was April 19th. The war ended May the 8th. But we were back, American hands back into American uniform, and they put us on the train the next day and moved us down to Le Havre, France, right near the water. And for some reason I just sat on my butt for 2 weeks before I got a ship ride home. And I was very close to New York when the war ended.